The Paracel Islands, also known as Xisha in Chinese and Hoàng Sa in Vietnamese, is a group of islands, reefs, banks and other maritime features in the South China Sea. It is controlled by the People's Republic of China, and also claimed by Taiwan and Vietnam. The archipelago includes about 130 small coral islands and reefs, most grouped into the Northeast Amphitrite Group or the Western Crescent Group. They are distributed over a maritime area of around 15,000 square kilometers, with a land area of approximately 7.75 square kilometers. The archipelago is approximately equidistant from the coastlines of China and Vietnam, and approximately about one-third of the way from central Vietnam to the northern Philippines. Forces of the Republic of China landed on Woody Island in the Amphitrite Group in November 1946 and abandoned it in May 1950. The Amphitrite Islands were then unoccupied until forces of the People's Republic of China landed there in late 1955. French and Annamite forces landed on Paracel Island in the Crescent Group in January 1947. After independence, forces from South Vietnam took over the positions until the Battle of the Paracel Islands in January 1974. South Vietnam's claim to the islands was inherited by the Socialist Republic of Vietnam, which has ruled all of Vietnam since 1976. In July 2012, China established the city of Xisha, under Hainan Province, to administer the area. Turtles and seabirds are native to the islands, which have a hot and humid climate, abundant rainfall and frequent typhoons. The archipelago is surrounded by productive fishing grounds and a seabed with potential, but as yet unexplored, oil and gas reserves. Geography. Geographic coordinates: 16 degrees 40 N 112 degrees 20 E 16.667 degrees north 112.333 degrees east 16.667 112.333 Coastline 518 kilometers. Climate tropical. Elevation extremes: lowest point South China Sea 0 meters, highest point unnamed location on Rocky Island 14 meters. Natural resources: fish, coral reefs, possible reserves of oil and gas of unknown size. Natural hazards: typhoons. Amphitrite Group. The Amphitrite Group was named after the French frigate Amphitrite of the Jesuit missionary, lying in the northeast of the Paracel Islands at 16 degrees 53 N 112 degrees 17 E 16.883 degrees north 112.283 degrees east 16.883 112.283. The group consists of low narrow islands with sand cays, enclosed shallow lagoons connected by reefs of rock, and is about 37 kilometers northwest of Lincoln Island. The group approximately forms an ellipse with a north-south axis of 22 kilometers. The northern section of the group comprises West Sand, Tree Island and the Kilianu subgroup. The center of the group consists of Woody Island and Rocky Island, approximately 5 kilometers south of the southern tip of the eastern extremity of the northern section. The southwest corner of the group is occupied by the Iltish Bank. The largest island of the Paracels, Woody Island, has over 1,000 residents including fishermen and their families, military personnel and civilian administrators. Crescent Group, lying about 70 kilometers southwest of the Amphitrite Group, at 16 degrees 30 N 111 degrees 42 E 16.5 degrees north 111.7 degrees east 16.5 111.7. The Crescent Group consists of islands and reefs that form a crescent-like structure from west to east, enclosing a deep central lagoon. The group measures 31 by 15 kilometers east-west and north-south. All of the islands in the group support vegetation except on their small cays. The islands are named after former senior figures in the British East India Company. 3 were members of the EIC's Select Committee in Canton: James Drummond, Thomas Pattle and John William Roberts. Jonathan Duncan was Governor and Council of Bombay, and William Taylor Money was Superintendent of the Bombay Marine. The Chinese name for Money Island is simply the translation of the word money, Jin Yin Dao. Money Island lies at the southwest extremity of the group, and has some small cays in the southern side. Antelope Reef, submerged at high tide and containing a central lagoon, lies 2.4 kilometers east of Money Island. Northeast of this are Robert Island and Paracel Island, separated from each other by a 3.5 kilometers wide deep channel. A weather station was built on Paracel Island in 1932, and a lighthouse and radio station in 1937. Northeast of this is Quan Phu Dao. Observation Bank, also named Silver Islet, and the Lesser Silver Islet, are the northernmost of the group and contain a small cay just south of the Mayagong Dao and Jianshu. At the eastern side of the group lies a 12 kilometers long boomerang-shaped reef with Stone Islet at its north end and Drummond Island at its south end. The Duncan Islands, consisting of Duncan Island and Palm Island, lie approximately 3 kilometers west of Drummond Island and about 8 kilometers east of Antelope Reef. Xisha lies about halfway between Palm Island and Antelope Reef. Other features taking 16 degrees 40 and 112 degrees 20 E, 16.667 degrees north, 112.333 degrees east, 16.667, 112.333 is the center of the Paracel Islands. Then the Amphitrite group is east, and the Crescent group is west. Southeast Bombay Reef. This elongated reef is situated at the southeastern corner of the Paracel Islands and lies approximately 90 kilometers southeast of the Crescent group. With most parts submerged, the reef measures approximately 18 by 5 kilometers. Bombay Reef encloses a deep lagoon with rocks on its edge. Eastern subgroup Burman Bank, located 24 kilometers north of Bombay Reef, is the southwesternmost feature of this subgroup. This submerged shallow bank measures approximately 23 kilometers in length from northeast to southwest. The shallowest area reaches a depth of about 12 meters and is located in the southwestern part of the bank. Jahangir Bank, east of the Bremen Bank at 16 degrees 18 and 112 degrees 42 E, 16.3 degrees north, 112.7 degrees east, 16.3, 112.7. Neptuno Bank, north of the Bremen Bank at 16 degrees 30 and 112 degrees 30 E, 16.5 degrees north, 112.5 degrees east, 16.5, 112.5. Pyramid Rock, knee of the Neptune Bank at 16 degrees 36 and 112 degrees 36 E, 16.6 degrees north, 112.6 degrees east, 16.6, 112.6. Lincoln Island, surrounded by a coral reef, located 37 kilometers southeast from the Amphitrite group at 16 degrees 42 and 112 degrees 42 E, 16.7 degrees north, 112.7 degrees east, 16.7, 112.7. The island is covered with bushes and fairly high trees, including coconut palm trees. The depth increases sharply on the northern and eastern sides of the island, but the southern and southwestern regions are shallow. An observation post on the western side was found by officers of the German government surveys in 1883. In 1948, Great Britain requested France for permission to use the feature for military exercises. Northeast Dido Bank, separate from, and near, the eastern subgroup at 16 degrees 49 and 112 degrees 53 E, 16.817 degrees north, 112.883 degrees east, 16.817, 112.883. 16 degrees 53, and 112 degrees 17, E, 16.883 degrees north, 112.283 degrees east, 16.883, 112.283 northwest, North Reef. Situated approximately 56 kilometers north from the Crescent Group and about 70 kilometers west-northwest from the Amphitrite Group at 17 degrees 06 and 111 degrees 30, E, 17.1 degrees north, 111.5 degrees east, 17.1, 111.5. The reef is the most northwesterly feature of the Paracel Islands. Most parts of the reef are submerged. There are rugged rocks around the edge that are barely above water. There is a passage into the lagoon on the southwestern side of the reef. In a southwest Discovery Reef, measuring approximately 27 kilometers in length from east to west and 7 kilometers from north to south. The reef is located about 18 kilometers south of the Crescent Group at 16 degrees 15 and 111 degrees 42, E, 16.25 degrees north, 111.7 degrees east, 16.25, 111.7. Completely submerged, the elongated ring structure is the largest single reef in the Paracel Islands. The reef has two large, deep openings into the lagoon on its southern side. Paracel. This small reef encloses a shallow lagoon and is located about 12 kilometers south of the eastern side of Discovery Reef at 16 degrees 06 and 111 degrees 48, E, 16.1 degrees north, 111.8 degrees east, 16.1, 111.8. Approximately 37 miles east-northeast from Triton Island. The sand cay measures 9 kilometers in length. Outer southwest Triton Island. The sand cay supports vegetation and stands on a steep-sided coral reef measuring 1.5 kilometers in length. This southwesternmost island of the Paracels is situated about 56 kilometers from Discovery Reef at 15 degrees 48 and 111 degrees 12, E, 15.8 degrees north, 111.2 degrees east, 15.8, 111.2. Central Volador Reef. Located slightly south of the center of the group at 16 degrees 18 and 112 degrees 00, E, 16.3 degrees north, 112 degrees east, 16.3, 112. This mostly submerged reef is orientated east-west and measures approximately 12 kilometers by 3 kilometers. Some small spiral rocks are to be seen on the reef. ESE Herald Reef at 15 degrees 48 and 112 degrees 18, E, 15.8 degrees north, 112.3 degrees east, 15.8, 112.3. List of entities. Satellite images. Money Island, Patel Island, Robert Island, Antelope Reef, Bombay Reef, Burman Bank, Discovery Reef, Iltish Bank, Lincoln Island, North Reef, Paracel Reef, Triton Island. Etymology. Xisha and other Chinese names. The Chinese name Xisha, literally, a western sands, or shoals, is a name adopted in the 20th century to distinguish it from the eastern sands, the southern sands, and the central sands. Prior to that, there had been no consistent designation of these islands in early Chinese sources, with names such as Changsha, Shitang, Sichuan and others being used for Paracel and Spratly apparently interchangeably. In the Song dynasty work Zhufanji by Zhao Ruguo, the names Qianli Changsha and Wanlai Sichuan were given, interpreted by him to refer to Paracel and Spratly respectively, but opinions differed. The Yuan dynasty work Daoyi Jilu by Wang Dayan considers that Shketang to be the same as Wanlai Shketang, which starts from Chaozhou and extends to Borneo, west to Kon Sun Island off Vietnam and down as far as Java. The history of Yuan uses the terms Kaizhou Yang and Wanlai Sketang, which are taken to mean Paracel and Spratly respectively. In the Maokun map from the Zhenghe's voyage of the early 15th century, groups of islands were named as Shitang, Wansheng Sketang Yu, and Shixing Sketang, with Shitang being taken by some to mean Paracel. Another Ming text, Haiyu, uses Wanlai Sketang to refer to Paracel and Wanlai Changsha for Spratly. During the Qing dynasty, a set of maps refer to Paracel as Kaizhou Yang, while a book Hailu refers to Paracel as Changsha and Spratly as Sketang. A sea chart prepared in the Daoguang era, Yiban Lu by Zheng Guangzhu, uses Xisha to refer to Paracel. Xisha was also used in 20th century maps published by the Republic of China, for example in 1935, and the 1947 11-line map which claimed Paracel and Spratly as its territories. Hoang Sa. The Vietnamese call the islands Hoang Sa, and this name is found in historic Vietnamese documents dating back to the 15th century. In the modern language system it is written as Hoang Sa or Cat Vang. They all have the same meaning, the yellow sands or the yellow sandbank. Before the early 19th century, the present-day Spratly Islands were treated as features of Hoang Sa. It was not until the reign of Emperor Min Mang that the Spratlys were distinctly delineated and officially named Van Lai Tia Yuang Sa, the 10,000-league-long sandbank. Chinese researcher Li Jinming, however, claims that the original Hoang Sa in historic Vietnamese documents is along the coast of the Vietnamese shore, and not the modern Paracel or Spratly Islands. Paracel and Paracel. The Portuguese were the first to refer to these islands as Ilhas do Paracel in the 16th century. On the Map of Europe, Africa and Asia, published in 1598 by Cornelis Claes, an unnamed band of rocks and sandbanks are shown near the present-day location of the Paracel and Spratly Islands. About 2 decades later, the names Paracel and Costa de Paracel appeared on the Chart of Asia and 8 city maps published in 1617 by Willem Jans Blaeu, a Dutch map maker. The coast belonged to the Kingdom of Cauchy, China. As early as at the beginning of the 16th century, Portuguese vessels frequented the South China Sea, later followed by the Dutch, the English, the Spanish, and the French. They all wanted to become major traders in a region of great commercial opportunity that, at the time, was little known in the West. The name Paracel began to replace Paracel on maps and charts as the century passed. On the map of the coast of Tonkin and Cochin, China, made in 1747 by Pierre Dont, the dangerous band of rugged rocks was labeled Le Paracel, a French phonetic notation, because of its peculiarity on an important water channel. Ilhas de Paracel drew much attention from navigators and hydrographers for several centuries. Disputes in the area since the Second World War have again drawn attention to the islands, but the origin of the terminology is still only vaguely understood. There are different stories about the names, but none of them provide any convincing evidence. The term parcel was used by the Portuguese to classify islands, rather than being used as a proper noun. That class of islands possess a number of characteristics. Paracel is a moderately elevated chain of islets, sandbanks, and reefs. These features are continuously distributed and stretched over a noticeable distance of tens or hundreds of kilometers in length. Paracel may not be a suitable place for human residence, but its irregular depth creates an ideal environment inhabited by fish. Paracel often forms a natural bulwark as an outer line of defense for a coast or a land. Regarding the features off the coast of the Kingdom of Cauchy, China, their structure closely fits the above description. Paracel is an antiquated variation of the now much more common form parcel, which was used by the Portuguese navigators to designate shallow seas or sea banks, and is still widely found in the toponymy of Portuguese-speaking countries. Approximately 350 years later, in the early mid-19th century, Ilhas de Paracel was divided into 2 archipelagos. From that time onwards, the names Paracel Islands and Spratly Islands have become more popular internationally and widely used on charts, maps, and related documents. East India Company. The islands were first scientifically surveyed by Daniel Ross of the English East India Company in 1808. The names of Duncan, Drummond, Money, Patel and Roberts Islands were all chosen in honor of senior figures in the East India Company. Infrastructure and natural resources. Infrastructure. The PRC is investing millions in infrastructure and development to support its territorial claims over the archipelago, and as a result, there has been, and continues to be, a lot of construction activity. In recent years, Woody Island has acquired an upgraded airport, an upgraded seaport, and a city hall. A primary school for children of construction workers and troops stationed there is planned. Fresh water. There is limited supply of fresh water on the islands. In 2012, it was reported that China planned to build a solar energy-powered desalination plant on the islands. Electricity. Both wind and solar-powered facilities exist to supply electricity on the islands. Communication. There is a post office, hospital, bank and hostel on Woody Island. The Chinese postal zip code of the island is 572,000, and the telephone area code is +86. Transport. There is an airport on Woody Island with a 2,400 meters long runway, which can handle takeoffs and landings of Boeing 737s or planes of similar size. Flight services operate on the Haikou-Xisha route. There are 3 main roads on Woody Island as well as an 800 meters long cement causeway that connects Woody Island and Rocky Island. Extensive port facilities have been constructed on Duncan Island. Tourism. The islands have been open for tourists since 1997. Chinese tourists can take a 20-hour ferry to the islands, paying up to $2,000 for a 5-day cruise, and are placed on a long wait list before being accepted. The BBC article states that Chinese tourism has strong political implications, as the Chinese tourists are being used as foot soldiers of China by Beijing to further China's territorial claims there. The video also states Vietnam is considered unlikely to send military vessels to stop them. There are 2 museums on Woody Island, a naval museum and a maritime museum. In April 2012, the vice mayor and officials from the Haikou municipal government made several announcements about developing new docking facilities and hotels within the Crescent Group, on Duncan and Drummond Islands specifically. Promotion of the naturally unspoilt reef system was cited as the driver for new tourism potential, with other such reefs, such as the Great Barrier Reef in Australia, now placed under threat of extinction due to human activities. However, according to the China Post, this was denied by a PRC government official in April 2012, due to sensitivities surrounding the islands.